Hello! Hello! Hello there! Hello! Hello!
Etepuakuin of Etepuakuin is the place to be reviews, and I'm here with all of yous reviewing Prodigal Son Season 2, Episode 3, Alma Mater. Now, I didn't really feel like being on camera today, so instead of Etep, you get Mini-Me-Tep. Now, after the events that transpired on last week's episode, namely Martin befriending Friar Pete in Claremont and devising a plan to escape and rejoin his family as Martin's delusions of grandeur have clearly got the better of him as we look at some memes here. Let's get on with the review, though, shall we? And Malcolm comes in, though, and he has a kind of naysaying attitude towards Martin's ability to escape from Claremont, and Martin wakes up in his cell, which it would have been much nicer for Martin if he was actually home, because it would have been something like this, I think. Bright is going through his morning workout routine, and he's having flashbacks of dismembering Endicott, and he takes a call from Martin, and Gil shows up at his door to alert him that they've got a murder to deal with. It's funny because Martin says, "Is that Gil? Put him on speaker," and Bright hangs up. Bright doesn't really want to go because this murder took place at his old boarding school. Bright says he'll only go if it was the old headmaster that got killed, and it turns out, ironically, it was the old headmaster that got killed. So Bright and Gil show up at the boarding school to find Headmaster Brumback dead by drowning in the pool. Idrissa is snorkeling around the pool. His office was neatly arranged underwater, exactly as it was in his actual office, mind you. I mean, all the furniture, everything. Bright thinks it may have been the work of a student, although the headmaster had many enemies that weren't students. Jessica, Bright's mom, is the one who got the high crimes unit to take the case, as we find out. She had a moment with Gil, and you can clearly tell that Gil is hurt by Jessica leaving him. Did anybody else notice the color of the water in the pool? Is it just me, or... Cut to a scene about Friar Pete telling Martin how he can go about achieving Exodus and who he needs to talk to first, which he steered to another inmate named Daryl. So Officer Danny Powell and Bright are still at the boarding school, and he's having a flashback of something that happened to him when he was at the school that really traumatized him. Headmaster Brumback, he expelled Bright for some reason, wrote his name in this black book where he allegedly kept all the names of students he had warned or expelled. Bright realizes he needs to get the book out of Brumback's desk, which happens to still be at the bottom of the pee pool. So Martin is discussing Exodus with Brother Daryl when Brother Daryl tells Martin that there are 3 security clearance key cards, red, green, and blue, that they need, and Daryl has the green and blue. Also, Martin sees that he has a shiv, which will come into play later on in the episode, so Martin tells him he knows how to get the red key card. Gil has 3 students come in to interview, and Bright walks in soaking wet from jumping into the pool to retrieve Brumback's black notebook. The students smugly think the book does not exist. Bright tells the 3 students their names were on the last page, which was dated the previous day. He interviews and profiles them after telling them he's going to profile them, but he knows all 3 students were lying to him post-interview. They're all friends and have corroborated their stories, or so we think. Jessica, Bright's mother, enters and admonishes him for going after the students because of who their parents are and their level of influence. And she is also on the board of the private school. Idrissa is wandering around and she happens into the physics lab and sees a cooler that says physics team only or physics club only. She goes in, finds a bottle of water. Well, our 3 students, Anton, Louisa, and I can't remember the other girl's name, it's pretty irrelevant at this point, happen upon her, and she takes a gut punch from Louisa, who seems to be kind of the ringleader of these 3 miscreants. And they think she's a freshman. She says, "Oh, I was in physics club." And they said, "What? And you're a freshman?" And just punches her in the stomach. Bright deduces the kids are using water bottles to cheat on tests, as they have notes hidden under the labels on them. You peel them back. Here is all these answers under there for tests and quizzes and whatnot. So he deduces this is why the kids killed Brumback. He must have happened upon their plot, threatened to expel them, which would cause their parents great dismay, being as this is a very exclusive private school, obviously because Bright attended it. Jessica says she might be able to help, and she has one of the 3 kids, a girl named Louisa, who has clear delusions of grandiose self-worth, over to her home. And they're kind of having tea, and Jessica basically just calls her out on it, says she knows about the cheating scam, and Louisa tells her that the dean caught her and blackmailed her into cooperation. Poses more questions. What is actually going on here? Why didn't the dean expel her for this? Bright then goes to visit Professor Delaney, who is named interim headmaster. Also, he was there when Bright was there and kind of always had his back. Now, Bright has a flashback about being locked in the closet by another student, has a panic attack. Malcolm wanted to know who let the other student know his real identity, and it was his dad, he thought, in the process of leaving a message. Now, I say knowing his identity, this is the reason he got locked in the closet, because one of the other students knew that his dad was Martin Whitley, the surgeon, even though Bright had changed his name in an attempt reinvent himself at a new school, but this was ruined when this other student found out his name, locked him in a maintenance closet for 3 whole days. One of the students suspected in Headmaster Brumback's murder, Anton, makes a run for it after summoning his dad's helicopter. I mean, that's some rich folks shit right there. When I was 17, I would have been escaping in an 86 Cutlass, not a fucking helicopter. Malcolm is visiting his father. He confronts him about the message he left using their real last name of Whitley as opposed to Bright, which caused Bright to be locked in a closet for an entire weekend. Now, he would not have known this had Professor Delaney not told him that Malcolm's father called and left a message and used their real last name, and that's how the other student found out his last name. Malcolm calls him a terrible father, caused him to be locked in a closet for 3 days with no food and water, so if his father was to blame, I mean, I guess you're a little justified in calling him a terrible father. Martin tells Malcolm he didn't call, he would never hurt Malcolm, that's the one thing he can never do, the one person he can never hurt is Malcolm. Professor Delaney is the one who ends up taking the fall for the crime, as Bright figures out he's responsible for Headmaster Brumback's death. Bright goes to confront Professor Delaney, tells him he's deduced that he knows he's responsible for Brumback's death, using the 3 students to organize the murder after his pay for test answers scam was discovered. Delaney vehemently denies this. Danny takes a squad of SWAT officers to Anton's dad's, quote, tax hideout and plans to arrest him, but finds him there with one of the other female students, not Louisa, the one I can't remember her name because she really doesn't add much to the story. And they say that they were afraid of Louisa. Professor Delaney is adamant about the fact that he was not responsible for Brumback's murder, while he and Bright are in this enclosed little room that is airtight to keep his books that he restores fresh and, keep the pages from getting discolored and distorted and things happening to the books. But Delaney keels over as he was eating a sandwich. Malcolm tells him he knows he didn't kill Brumback, although he was responsible for Bright being locked in the closet. Louisa shows up, locks Bright in the small room where Delaney keeps the books, and Bright is claustrophobic because of his experience being locked in a closet for 3 days. So we find out that this entitled little brat is basically a cold-blooded killer, as she poisoned the dean and she poisoned Professor Delaney because while he was getting paid for the test answers, it was his scam he'd been running for years. Brumback found out. The girl killed him because Brumback used her to get to Delaney. Malcolm expertly extracts a confession from her that she was responsible for the murder and she did it because she wanted to get away from her dad. She hates him, yada yada yada. Rich entitled brat. Bright pleads to her to open the door. Malcolm tells her that he killed someone too. The student who locked him in the closet, punched him in the throat, emptied his inhaler preemptively before his assault, so he died from an asthma attack and nobody ever found out. But Brumback sensed it and expelled Malcolm for it. Louisa leaves, but gets arrested right outside of the building while she's trying to walk away. Bright used a lighter and one of the pieces of paper laying on the desk in this little room to light a fire to set the smoke alarms off to alert the authorities that something was wrong there. During Bible study, Martin expertly convinces Daryl to give him his shiv to steal the red key card from Mr. David, who is Martin's assigned guard, because he said that Mr. David trusts him almost as if he's a friend. And then Martin takes the shiv, throws it on the floor, yells he's got a weapon, walks back, puts his hands against the wall. The guards take Mr. Darrell into custody, but at this point, Martin has already snagged the 2 key cards from him. Back at headquarters for the High Crimes Unit, Gil is yelling at Bright for starting a fire in the chamber and almost suffocating themselves to death from lack of oxygen, just to sound the smoke alarm to draw in help. And Bright mockingly imitates him, and Danny busts in and tells them both that JT, Tarmel, who we remember his wife is pregnant and expecting, they had their baby, and they all rejoice, which JT was obviously absent from this episode because his wife was in labor and they were expecting a kid, so he was not in this episode at all, except in name only. Malcolm makes the pilgrimage back to Claremont to talk to his father Martin in his cell, and Martin is waiting for something from Malcolm, and Malcolm finally apologizes for blaming him for the name drop incident that caused him to suffer such a traumatic experience as being locked in a closet for 3 days. And we see that's where Bright's handshake comes from. If you notice, his hand will shake from time to time when he's stressed out, and that's where that originated, was that incident right there, and the subsequent beating and murder of the classmate who did that to him. So yeah, there it is right there, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 3, Alma Mater of Prodigal Son. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Do all the YouTube things, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Join us later on tonight, Episode 9, Going in Rogue. My guest will be Nick Glenn from Echo Base Network, Final Death Star, or Enter the Unfamiliar as he's now known, and Fat Steven Seagal beat up Ryan Johnson, plus my co-host Tony Tonedeaf, a whole lot more. Join us tonight, 8:30 Eastern, and don't be afraid to subscribe, ladies and gents. I'm Itepukuyan of the place to be reviews. I've been here with all of yous, and remember, if I don't see you, have a great day, a pleasant tomorrow, and I'll catch you on the next one.